Welcome to How to Ruin Your Own Reputation, the show where I talk to people who are living lives that some people don't quite understand, and they're doing it unapologetically. We talk about a lot of different topics on this show, and non-traditional relationships is one that comes up quite a bit. And we've talked about all kinds of relationships, from age gap relationships to open marriages to sugar baby, sugar daddy relationships to BDSM master slave relationships. But I think the one that I get the most questions about is polyamory. And I think, in my personal opinion, it's because people can understand, even if it's not for them, they understand the idea of somebody in a relationship wanting to have sex with other people. It's the relationship part that's so confusing. I mean, the thought of having feelings for two people. How can you commit to more than one person? How can you be in love with more than one person at one time? I think that's what people have a hard time wrapping their head around. So anytime you want to discuss something that's complicated, you got to bring in an expert. And so that brings me to today's guest. Today I will be talking with Jacki Yovanoff, who is a self-described, pansexual, bisexual, queer, cis, non-monogamous, brash feminist, educator, activist, advocate, a mom. And Jacki's been thriving in a healthy polyamorous relationship for longer than a lot of traditional marriages last. So we're gonna dive right in and just hopefully answer some of the questions that everyone's been asking me. So let's do this, Jacki. Welcome to How to Ruin Your Own Reputation.
And thank you for having me on. This is fabulous. Love the podcast. So it's a blast to be here.
Well, thank you. And like I said, I think that is what is so confusing to people is people understand that you can become attracted to somebody else. You could want to have sex with somebody else. It's the idea of not just being able to commit to somebody and then still have feelings for somebody else, but it's the fact that you don't have to lie about it, that the other partners involved are all okay with it. It just seems like maybe too good to be true. I don't know. So maybe just to start, just define polyamory for us.
Right. So there's the umbrella kind of non-monogamy, right? So we understand what monogamy is. Well, and there's a lot of nuances in monogamy too, but yeah, monogamy is like one person, right? Is your love for life, ostensibly. So non-monogamy is not that, right? And polyamory fits under that. So polyamory is having more than one romantic, sexual, intimate relationship with the full knowledge and consent of everyone involved, right? So polyamory can look so different. Not all relationships have to have like a sexual component. Maybe they have different, for lack of a better word, depth of emotion in them, intimacy, what you do. But yeah, it's just, for me, it's the ability to let relationships grow where they're going to grow without having to put these walls around them. Right? So it's not that I'm necessarily going out and seeking more romantic relationships or emotional relationships or committed relationships. It's just like, oh, here, cool. There's this person in my life and this relationship can go wherever it's going to go. And whether that's from a friendship to a romantic relationship, maybe there's some sex involved and maybe it turns more into something that looks more like friendship again, right? Like, who knows? It's, for me, it's all about that freedom. So that was a really long introduction on what
no, but it's a complicated thing. And I think that's when I'm listening to that. I think the scary part of it is what you just said about sort of letting the relationship evolve and seeing where it goes. I think when people are, let's say, swinging, let's say that kind of thing, because that's you're a couple, you go to bars, you sleep with other people or maybe other couples. It's really a sex thing.
And
I'm going to say.
That's how I started out in my non-monogamy, was that safer, quote unquote, that safer, let's have these kind of boundaries and we're going to do this fun thing, but be emotionally monogamous.
Right. And why it's a weird thing, I think, because there's all that talk about infidelity. And can you be just emotionally, can you cheat emotionally without the sexual component? And right. So that's where those lines come from. And I guess that's a kind of a tough thing. But I do think if you're a couple who is comfortable with opening things up sexually, knowing that you're committed to each other, I I understand why bringing feelings into it is scarier, because then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, you're seeing them again, and now you're having feelings for that. It
Right.
feels more threatening. Like
It
all of a
does.
sudden, that's more of a threat to our base, to our
Which is
foundation.
interesting, right? Because why does that feel like such a threat when that can happen in any relationship, right? Like you're not safer in swinging or
Right.
monogamy or whatever style it is. You just may not see something coming, right? You may be blindsided
Hmm.
by another relationship if it's an affair. And at the end of the day, like I want to choose the people I'm with because I want to choose to be in relationships with them, right? Not because of some have to.
Right. I mean, I think that's really what the whole monogamy thing comes down to is we're told from birth, we're taught, and you still see,
Mhm.
oh my God, there's a gazillion posts a day about finding your person and your better half and God help us, your soulmate. And that's supposed to be the person that you meet, whenever, even if you meet them when you're 20 years old, that's supposed to be the only person for you forever. And the pressure of that is insane. And the pressure to stay in that situation. So I think in that kind of thing, people feel forced to either leave or to cheat, not realizing that maybe there's another option. Maybe this
Right.
person is for you, but I think we're conditioned to believe, to expect that this one person is supposed to fulfill all of our needs all of the time while we're fulfilling all of their needs all of the time. And I think that's a lot of pressure
Mhm.
to put on people.
Yeah. And it's interesting just the timing of this conversation too, because I don't even want to say coming out of a pandemic. Like we're still in
Mhm.
world where we had to really kind of shut our doors because of the nature of who lives in this household, the fact
Mm.
that we share households, like two of the kids go with their dad and two of the kids go with their mom. So, and then another of those households also had kids that went to another household. So if you can picture this hamster enclosure, right, kind of thing, so we have
Right.
houses with all these tunnels already, and then we've got other partners, right? And we had to make, like, there were obviously ongoing conversations and all these different things about, especially at the beginning, not knowing, right? And
Mm.
one person had a partner who's a doctor. So there's that added risk of, oh my gosh, what risk does that add to everything? So we've been basically like, it looks pretty monogamous, right? From the outside right now,
So maybe tell us, describe your
tiptoeing that.
situation. Because, yeah, describe your situation, what your
So
relationship looks like.
currently, I live with my nesting partner and Gordon uses he and they pronouns. So I'll kind of be using both. And Gordon has a partner that they've had for years, I think about 7 or so years, and they're local at Michelle, and they've given me permission to use their names, anybody I'm using names for. um, yeah, they're local. And um, Gordon also has another person whose relationship has kind of, it's one of those ones that has shifted and evolved, and they're calling themselves more than friends, they're using different terms for their relationship, and it's just really cool actually to watch that kind of like those realizations and those like, we can do this or we can be this to each other. So yeah, so Gordon has got a
Mm.
couple partners in their life. I have a person I refer to as my comet. So if you can picture like a comet, that kind of, it's this stable thing in your life, but it kind of like it around the earth, right? Like it comes everyone
Right.
comes around total slip. But anyway, so in and of your life a
Clear.
bit, right? So that person is in Toronto, and it's been a years long relationship since about 2015, and it's kind of like a more sporadic relationship, right? So it's not even a necessarily constant daily texting relationship, but we know we're in each other's lives. And I also have a partner in Milwaukee. And again, that's been years, since about 2017. But of course, with the pandemic, like we
Mhm.
literally couldn't see each other. Like there were laws or barrier
Right.
of a border between us for the first like couple of years, basically, where we were not allowed to see each other. And we do text like every day. So that's a pretty consistently like an emotional relationship too.
And how long have you and Gord been together?
So Gordon and I have been together since very beginning of 2012. So
Okay, like 10 years.
yeah.
Ish.
Yep.
Okay.
Over 10 years. So I think now that my non-monogamous relationship is longer than what my marriage was. So
That's what I was
so I
saying.
started out, grew up, small town, right? Nuclear family, mom, dad, brother, me, and had my dating relationships in high school where I dated one person until I didn't. And then I dated another person until I didn't. And, dated another person in college till I didn't, and met the person I was going to marry when I was about 25. Got married late 20s, had kids, did the whole monogamous marriage thing. And I thought that's what we were just going to do. Right. And then that marriage dissolved. So when that happened, there was a coworker friend of mine, and I was just speaking with him about like relationships and I don't know what I want and what I'm going to do. And he was actually the one that introduced me to The Ethical Slut, the book. And it was basically one of only a couple books out there at the time. And he said, whatever you want your life to look like or relationships to look like, this is a great relationship book. So it's not necessarily like, here's how to do polyamory. It's like, here's some great things about relationships in general. And that really opened my eyes to the possibility of something other than monogamy, because all I knew was swinging from the 70s party swinging.
Right.
Like, was it even a thing people do anymore? Or was it just that then?
The little tea party. Yeah.
Yeah. Or polygamy, right? Which is the other style of non-monogamy that we hear about all the time. Yeah. Right? Which is like Bountiful BC, or, Mormons, well, a certain sect of Mormons where it's the one man only and a bunch of wives.
Right. Which is very different. So anyone who
very
really
different.
Have to make sure we're not confusing polygamy with polyamory. Yeah, I'm sure.
Polygamy and polyamory still do get conflated. And polyamory is more of that egalitarian, everybody has
totally. Yeah. Probably more than anything, because you are talking with each other and there's so much communication. It's more than in most relationships. There has to, isn't that the key thing, is that there has to be communication. It won't work if there's not.
Or it's not right. Or you can, it's just not going to go well.
Right. Well, what's funny when you're talking, I'm just thinking it's like what I'm thinking about is so many times it's the whole forbidden fruit situation. So let's say you're in a monogamous situation and you meet someone at work that you're attracted to, or online, or whatever the situation is. And they're so exciting to you that you start having a conversation, and maybe there's flirting, and maybe it goes, but it's taboo. And I think, sometimes it might break up the relationship. Sometimes it may go on. Who knows? But I think what's funny is when you're talking about letting relationships evolve, I bet there are so many situations when you do meet somebody and you're feeling, oh, this is really exciting. And then you talk more, you get to know more, and then it fizzles. Like you realize, oh, that was and it doesn't go anywhere. But I think because you've given yourself that chance to kind of, get to know someone a little bit. And then you realize, oh, okay, that was nice, but there's nothing there. But I think when you're not allowed, then it becomes such a big thing.
Yeah.
And that's where the damage can really come from. So I feel like our fear is in the wrong place. We're so afraid of giving people freedom, right? And that freedom, not a scary thing. It's not a bad thing.
Right. Like, yeah, we try to put these walls or barriers or bubble wrap, right, around our relationship to keep it safe. Even in a monogamous relationship, right? Like, let's say I go to the office and there's a new person working in the office and there's that spark, right? You're like, oh, it's a really cool person. And we go for lunch, and like you're saying, and it's just really hot and we're connecting, and oh my gosh, I haven't felt this in a decade. Right. But I can't tell my husband.
Right.
Because maybe it'll bruise his ego, or maybe we haven't had conversations like that. We haven't learned how to communicate about those things that feel scarier. So this thing is my work life now, right? And it's a separate thing that's really cool and exciting, and it grows and it grows and it grows over here in my work world, right? And what if I had been able to go home and talk to my husband and just say, oh my gosh, there's this new coworker and I'm feeling feelings I haven't felt in a decade.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that even take that away from that thing that just builds and builds and builds and builds, right? Like that forbidden fruit thing. Even the fact that we might be able to just have a conversation with the person we love about this really big thing that's happening
Mm-hmm.
in our lives that we feel like we have to hide.
Right.
So one of the things about Gordon and my relationship is right from the beginning, we've kind of lived by the mantra of you have to have the conversations that could end your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And those are
That's very, yeah.
that you don't, they build and like your partner can feel them. Right. You can feel those walls kind of building up. And people are afraid to have those conversations because what happens if, or I want to open my relationship and I'm scared to bring it up.
Right.
Right.
That's
Or
when the secrets come, and the hiding your phone, and that's
yeah. Right.
it's like you have to have those difficult conversations, because not having them doesn't make the issues go away. But that brings up something where when I said I was going to do this show, one thing that came up often is, but commitment. What about commitment? You can't commit to one person and then be with someone else. But that's not true.
That's the monogamous myth, right? Like if we want to get really deep, like the reason that this nuclear family and monogamy and, you know, partnering and having babies has been thrust upon us is because of capitalism.
Right.
Right. So like it's something that doesn't, it's not a cookie cutter thing that works for everyone, but it's the
Right. What
best
does?
our economy, right? So we could have a huge conversation about that, but yeah,
Right.
I'm not saying monogamy is bad. I'm not saying committing to one person is less evolved or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. And I get how that's hard to fathom because I was in the same boat, right? How can you like open your heart and commit to more than one person? But I also liken it to having kids. Like, so people who have kids can probably understand this concept of you have your first child, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I like this is what love is, or whatever, or you may not feel that, but you like eventually get there with your kids, right? But you have this like immense love for this being, and you're like, wow. Like, I don't know how I have this much space for this much love, right?
Right.
And you have another child, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I could do this and have this much capacity to love more than one being like that, right? In that way. And it's like, wow, it just expands. It's not a container that you fill, right? It's just this expansive thing.
So you have to be pretty secure. I mean, because everyone asks about jealousy. And I know we've spoken before. You said that it's not that you never feel jealousy. I mean, that wouldn't be human either. I mean, jealousy comes up, but I think how you were describing it, and you'll get into this, is that when that happens, instead of putting the onus on someone else, you look inward and go, okay, where are these feelings coming from?
Yeah.
With me.
Yeah, because the way we have been taught to deal with jealousy in our society anyway, and especially this culture of like kind of squish the bad feelings down in general. So dealing with jealousy is this is making me feel bad, so stop it. The way to deal with it, or you could be jealous of a coworker, but it's just not, you know, it's kind of frowned upon to like tell somebody they can't do something or can't have that promotion at work. Or something. So you have to deal with that. But again, it's not necessarily dealing with it. It's just like, I just have to squish that down and not worry about the jealousy. Right. So when it's something that's going to be ongoing, like in a non-monogamous relationship of kind of any sort, yeah, you have to deal with it, right? Or it's going to grow and it's going to grow and it's going to blow up. So jealousy in and of itself is not really a feeling. It's an indicator of something. So why am I feeling jealous, right? Am I feeling that I am going to be abandoned? Do I have that feeling? Do I not feel special anymore? Right. And maybe how can we talk about that? Because in a monogamous relationship, who you have sex with is the special part, really.
Right.
So if all of a sudden that's not just for you. How do you make yourself
Right.
special? Or those restaurants you go to, or the, all those romantic things you do. That's what's supposed to be special in a monogamous relationship. So yeah, you have to reframe it. Right.
And I think, sorry, I was going to say, I think also it's just like any kind of opening up your marriage, your relationship at all. I think you have to be pretty solid as a couple to do that. I wouldn't think that it's going to help at all if you're on shaky ground and not feeling confident with each other to then go, well, why don't we just get boyfriends or girlfriends or other? I can't see that being a way to salvage a marriage. I think that you would have to be pretty comfortable with yourself and with your partner to then be able to open things up
Right.
that way.
So they were the first people that I knew that were actually doing like the open marriage thing that I knew of. There might have been other people doing it that we didn't know about. And we were in the same kind of social circles. And when Gordon first kind of hit on me in a cute little Twitter DM, right? It was like, well, I was going to hit on you, but a little birdie told me you were married, right? And that was when like the marriage was kind of dissolving. So I'm like, well, yeah, but not really, right? But you are.
Right.
Like, and then that was the conversation of like, well, no. And then confirmation, from their wife that it was like, no, you can totally like, I'm like, well, I'm not asking what's happening. I don't know. I'm not asking to do it.
Okay. Wow.
Wow. And then it took a couple months of like chatting and making sure like that they were cool kind of with each other, that I wasn't walking into anything explosive.
sure.
Yeah. So before Gordon and I started anything like that. So yeah, there was a couple months there. And then so Gordon wasn't looking for anything other than just like extra fun stuff, right?
Right.
There was already a marriage. And it was
Right.
that concept of I've already got a marriage. So I'm not looking for other relationships like that. It's just going to go out and date and have fun and whatever. And I wasn't looking to get into another cigar relationship because I had just gotten out of a monogamous marriage of a decade. So yeah, we were both just kind of in this for like fun, and we realized we really liked hanging out with each other and had a lot of the same interests. And yeah, we could hang out and watch TV. And that's actually where the friction started to come in between in their marriage, right?
Okay.
Like you said, when we started doing the stuff that's more like, we watch a series together or
Right. That feels scarier for sure.
yeah. So I've had the experience of kind of being the other person in a marriage that had gotten opened up. So, and dealing with like that kind of way. And their marriage ended in divorce again for other reasons. And I know people always say, well, of course it did because they opened their relationship, right?
Yeah, but look at all the relationships that end that have nothing to do with that. Like, come on.
Yeah, for what? So when that happened too, it was kind of like when we realized that we really did enjoy each other's company and like could see living together, like we were that well matched. Then it was like, oh, we're going to do this. Okay. Like we're going to do this more bigger, our style relationship, right? With the big old stamp on it. We had a conversation about what we wanted that relationship to look like. And if anybody takes anything away from this podcast, please have those conversations with the people you are getting into those deeper, more long-term relationships with. It's like, what do we want this to look like? Is it monogamous? Okay, what's that mean to you? Right? Like, is porn cheating? Is having lunch with an old high school friend cheating?
Right.
Like having drinks after work with it's supposed to be a bunch of coworkers and now it's just this one person. Now is that all of a sudden a line, right? So have those conversations, right? And what do you want your relationships to look like? So we decided that we didn't need exclusivity in our relationship. So from day one, we've always been non-monogamous. It did change forms. Like I said, we started that more swinging thing. So we were like, there's these clubs and there's these websites. Who knew there are these websites?
I knew.
Or there's these communities of people
Yeah.
And it's like blew my mind. And it's just like,
Mhm.
wow, there's these people that are there, and like specifically swinging websites, right? Where people are mostly on there as couples. And, it's kind of like a dating site, but it's a unit of two
Mhm.
or clubs.
But then you branched that. So then you went from the swinging thing to actually developing relationships with
Yeah,
other people. Now, do you
right.
just like that? I know that people are going to be wondering too. And so do you have to, do you know, okay, I'm going to assume that we're going to assume every relationship is different. So I'm sure there are some situations where you've got your nesting couple, let's say, and then people you everybody kind of knows everybody in the situation, or maybe can hang out with everybody's partner. But then there are probably some situations where you don't maybe hang out with each other's other partners or
Mhm. When we first started, we were like, everything was together, right? Like, so there was no not meeting someone. It was kind of like we went as a couple and, went to clubs as a couple. Or when we met, there was another couple that we met. So we went to this, there's a conference that happens and it was out of town. And we were like, oh, this would be probably a good place to meet people because and we were doing that. I don't know if I want to date anyone local, right? Because
right.
all these things. Anyway, let's just go out of town and have fun. And we ended up chatting with and having some fun with this other couple. And then we got chatting and realized that we were all from the same city.
Mm,
And then realized that there was so much in common, right? Like
mm.
we would hang out and stuff we would do. And so it was like, oh, okay. And so we saw them on a regular basis, right? Like go out as if you're like you go out with friends, right? We became friends with them. Like we would go out and we would all do karaoke together and we would hang out. And then they also had a kid around the same age as our
Mhm.
kids. So it's probably about a year or so into it where it was like, hey, why don't bring the kid? We'll have a family day. Like we'll hang out, we'll watch movies, and the kids all got to know each other. And so I kind of joked that we were bad swingers, right?
You took it too long. You're supposed to just hit it and then quit it, but you kept
Right.
it
And
going. That's the
even
thing.
Gordon was supposed to be this just, casual thing. Right. And then
Right. Oh Lord. Yeah.
yeah, just bad at the casual thing. Yeah, and that's kind of how it evolved into why we now use the term polyamory, because there were those deeper relationships, right? Yeah. And it's more like we got more secure in our relationship. And that's not a judgment on anyone else's relationship. That's just what
Mhm.
happened in our dynamic. So when we were together longer and more comfortable with each other and more secure in each other, we did feel more comfortable going out separately and dating and that kind of thing. Like I even had met someone at a conference in Chicago. So this was obviously hours and hours away. Met up with this person in Chicago and we chatted for a few months, right? Afterward. And he and I met up like halfway between Waterloo and Chicago. So we met up in Michigan. And that was a person that Gordon had never met. Right. So that was definitely a first, right? A new thing where I'm
Right.
going off to the middle of wherever, Michigan, right?
Yeah. That's
Airbnb, like safety is
right.
obviously a concern.
For sure. Right.
Those jealousy or whatever feelings, right, are coming up because your voice is constantly like, this should be wrong, right? Like we've been told all our
Yes.
I shouldn't be okay
Right.
with this. There's something lacking in our relationship if
Right.
wanting to go off and do this or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, so went off. And for people wondering about the safety aspect, yeah, we had all sorts of safety stuff, right? Like we share the location on our phone. We had a code topic, I guess, if you want. So if
Okay.
I texted something specific
Right.
that Gord would know that I need to call the police. Like it was that, it would
Wow.
have been that, like, I'm in trouble, get help here. And it was just
Yes.
a benign thing that nobody
Right.
would think. Like it could be something as simple as, oh my gosh, I forgot I have wet clothes in the washer.
Right. And that means I'm in
And
trouble.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
whatever.
think of that. That's an interesting thing. If this was a complete secret and you were hiding this from him, then you wouldn't have any of those safety measures. And if God forbid something went wrong,
Right.
nobody would know where you were.
Nope.
It's such an interesting thing that we do. We let that kind of the shame and the stigma, I'll say stigma against a lot of this stuff that's just really natural. It's actually such a deterrent. It's more dangerous, and I think that I really, to me, a lot of this comes down to fear. Because I mean, I know that sometimes you could be in a relationship with somebody and they could say that an actress is attractive or an actor is attractive, and you could kind of feel like
Yeah.
and then again, that really is okay. So what is going on with me? Because to expect that your partner won't find someone else attractive or whatever, it's unrealistic. I think the pressure that we put on ourselves is to think that relationships can't evolve. You get together and you think, a lot of people say, okay, so these are the deal breakers. We can't do this, 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 this. And then you're together 5, 10, 15, 20. You're different people, and the situations are different. And I think giving each other the chance to kind of talk and go, maybe we could, it's okay for things to evolve. It doesn't mean that things are worse.
Right.
It just means that I had a lot of people, especially when I did the open relationship episode, I had several people message me to say, hey, by the way, we just opened up. It's not uncommon for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I really want people to know that it seems kind of out there. But I will tell you that it is becoming more and more popular. And again, it's not polyamory, but swinging, but just kind of opening the relationship. It is way more popular than people talk about or that people know. And there's obviously a reason for that. So, I mean, I think that's really important. The other question I have, though, is, do you have to prove it's such a kind of well, no, approve. If you are, especially if it is a relationship thing where you've got these ongoing other relationships, do you have to prove of your partner's other relationships?
The short answer for us is no.
Right.
I am not a fan of that, or like the veto thing that people may talk about having. I would urge people to try to figure out what is behind that rather than having that veto, which basically means that I can say at any point, I want you to stop any other relationship that you have, or say no to a certain person, or regardless of the length of the relationship, even like, just nope, I want you to stop that now.
Mm.
Right. Which you can imagine gets super tricky when you've been seeing someone for, say, 6 months or a year, and then all of a sudden this third party who really has nothing to do with the relationship itself that you're in tells you can't be with that person anymore.
Right.
So when we think about it that way, it's like, yeah, that is kind of messed up. Right.
Well, it's funny because
I don't want to say like anybody who's doing that. I just urge people to think about what is
right.
going on, right? When there's that veto or that no, you can't. There have been people that had or had I felt comfortable, right? Like saying no to, that I would have. And those just kind of, play themselves out. Right.
Relationships can be tricky and at different times. My question is, let's say you have different relationships, because and they could be different levels, different depths and whatever, but you have these different relationships. Even if you're just texting with somebody regularly and something happens in that relationship, like
Mm-hmm.
somebody pisses you off or you're upset about something, how do you not bring that into your other relationships, especially the person that you're living with? So if you're pissed off at somebody, how do you not bring some of that into your primary relationship?
Well, and I think you do, right? Like you're still a whole ass human being who's,
Right.
present wherever you go. Like if I've had it before where, I'm having these big feelings about something, and instead of bringing it within the polycule, right? So the group of people who are in these relationships in different constellations,
Right.
I will reach out to a friend and say,
Okay.
hey, I'm having these like polycule imploding thoughts, and I really bounce it off someone before I bring it like to the person or people I want to speak with about this. Right. So that first reaction of that, maybe you can take that out and bounce that off a friend or,
Mhm.
someone else you trust, and they can kind of help you distill down kind of what's going on, rather than maybe putting that all on your nesting partner or all on another person.
Would you do that though? Would you talk about one relationship would be because you're in this really long-term committed relationship with Gordon? Would you do that if you're having an issue with another partner? Would you go to him as your sounding board, or would that be too weird?
Sometimes it depends, right? Like what it is. And there's some things that are more personal between
Mm-hmm.
people, and it's a respect thing too, right? So I'm not going to assume just because I'm living with Gordon that he's going to share everything about every relationship with me, especially if the other people don't know, or
Right.
have, especially if they've explicitly said, please don't share this.
Mm,
Right.
right.
Which can get, again, that's hard, right?
Yeah.
That's tricky. That's stuff
It,
that it's tough to deal with because we
right.
have also this entitlement that's been built into our monogamous structures, this entitlement to the person we're in our relationship with.
Right.
That
They have to tell us everything. We
yeah,
need to know everything.
right?
Right. Or else it's not narrow.
Like I'm
Hmm.
entitled to that +1 on the wedding invitation or your work party, or I'm entitled to know everything, or but yeah,
Well,
it's
that's an interesting question. Hold on a second. So wait a second. So you're because I know you write about this and you're very open about this, and your kids understand. I mean, you don't have to bring them into every detail, but they understand the idea of multiple healthy relationships. Okay, but here's the thing. So let's say there was a work thing,
mhm,
or even a social thing. You could your +1 could be someone other than your nesting.
mhm.
Okay, but then in that situation, you have to be either you're very very open in these situations, like if you're going to a work function and you're bringing someone that's not your husband, people are going to
You need to be
assume that you're up to no good, right? So so either you don't tell anyone and you just enjoy the ride and let people talk, um, or yeah, you're sort of open about it. That's kind of cool. You know what's really cool about that?
yeah, and I appreciate there's a privilege to that, right? Being able to be open about that at work or with family or with friends or whatever area in your life, you may not be able to do that.
Sure. But I think what's cool about it, I was just thinking, it's like, let's say you had a work function that was, I don't know, had to do with something that Gordon had zero interest in, but then you have another partner that it's right up their alley. How great is that? I'm sure Gordon would be like, go.
Yeah. Like I had an author event that I was invited to, right? And yeah, another partner of mine was like, "Oh my gosh, I love that person. Like I've read all their things. I've done all these things, right?" And it's like, "Well, yeah, like that should be the person that I choose to go, right? With that thing." So that's
Right.
an example. Or Gordon took Michelle to a work holiday party before. And it was one of those cool where they rented the party bus and they, went off from Waterloo to Toronto. And it was a really fun, cool thing. And I even got like here's the selfie of us in the party bus. And they shared it with me. And that's like, it's cool. They're thinking of me too.
Right.
I'm like, that's really neat. Like I'm involved, and I didn't go to that because there was another person who was visiting from out of town. They were only around like for that time too. And so, yeah, it was just all these different
It
things.
sounds like a lot of juggling and a lot of shuffling. And I'm sure there is some of that involved. But again, if this is something that is the right thing for you, then it's way less stressful than doing it on the side without your partner knowing. And things and you everyone's respectful of everyone's time. I mean, I think that the main thing is I know you've been very careful during our chat to kind of say a few times, but it's okay. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that monogamy isn't okay. And I think that that's the whole point of this is to say that of course monogamy is great and non-monogamy is great. And the point is that there are options. I
Mhm.
think that is the biggest disservice that happens, that how we grow up is that we're never told that there are options. And that goes for so many things. But
Mhm.
we are just never told that there are options. So then when we're thrown into this situation that we're kind of groomed for and it doesn't work, we feel like we're doing something wrong. We feel
Yeah.
like we're bad people because we can't fit ourselves into something that's just for some unrealistic. And so I really, that's really the point of why I do the show in general is to just highlight a different way of doing things that carries some judgment unnecessarily. And still, you may listen to something and say, not for me. But I hope that people carry a little bit less judgment when they look at people who are living differently, and just know that just because something works for you doesn't mean that it's the right thing for everybody. And as long as we're talking about consensual situations, as long as we're talking about situations where everybody, there's a mutual respect and it works for the people involved, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Go forward with respect and care, right?
That's it.
It's just a one night stand where you don't even know somebody's name. Like mutual care as human beings, right? At the core of everything.
Right.
It would solve so many issues.
Is there something, before I let you go, that maybe a misconception or something that you want to clear up, or anything you want to say that you didn't have the opportunity to say?
I like to think of it as a relationship orientation, right? Like there's just so many different ways of being, and some just fit better, right? Like looking back at that, like my life, it's just one of those like montage moments of, oh, okay, right? It's like wearing a pair of shoes that are not quite right, and you don't realize they're not quite right until you wear shoes that are amazing. It's like, where have these been all my life? I didn't know this wasn't quite.
That's right. It's not that your feet are deformed. It's just you weren't wearing the right shoes.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't a problem with your feet. It was just you were trying to squish them into the wrong shoes. Right. So what's the best way for people to get more information or to reach you for more information?
Yeah, I'm on most social media as Jacki Yo. So it's JACKIYO.
And we'll put in some resources that you've shared with me before. Just if somebody is interested in looking at alternatives to traditional monogamous relationships, there are plenty of resources that they can look to for that. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate this. I think we've helped some people understand things a little bit better. And thank everyone for listening. And see you next week on How to Ruin Your Own Reputation.